everyone, welcome to my show. Be sure to hit like, follow, and subscribe on YouTube and Twitch for all my exclusive content. Hello again, Fleet Commanders. Welcome back to another episode. Today we are talking about Ops 34 and 35 in our little tutorial here. Been a little while. It's taken a little longer getting through these levels now. There's a lot more going on. We're going to kind of jump into some of those things and talk about it. Also, I did hold off on this video for two reasons. One, I wanted to unlock and have my G3 Epic ship to show you a little bit about during this video. And also, they released the Bajoran Faction Store, which kind of changed thought process and thinking a little bit. There's a lot more stuff going on there. There's a whole nother loop, another cycle. They also released more information about the Mantis. Kind of wanted to see how that all worked before doing this set of videos and talking more about these particular ops levels. So we're going to jump right in, and we're going to start with what happens, in this range, Ops 34 to 35. There's a bunch of new ships. There's a bunch of new research. Now they've got a new faction tree as well. So let's start with the ships. That's the fun part, right? That's what people like to talk about. People come here for. They want to learn about the ships. What's going on, Tiberius? Tell us about these ships. All right, so let's start with the big daddies, right? Hit them right off the bat. Once you get the 34, and the reason everybody pushes the 34 as quickly as they can is because they want to get through all this stuff, all this stuff, all of this stuff, skipping, for the most part, this stuff, and get to these big daddies right there. There's your G3 Epic ships available at Ops level 34. You have your D4 for your Klingons. You have your USS Enterprise, which is what most people want. And then you have your Augur, which is also another strong ship that people tend to get. Battleship, higher hull health, things like that. These ships are not cheap to unlock. They will cost you 150 blueprints, and to get the ship, if you're just using faction credits, it will be 180,000 total faction credits needed to unlock these ships. Now, when you get to Ops 34, you can also start accumulating blueprints for them in your, if I go to the right section, in your Alliance tab here, in your Rare and Epic Armada packs. There is still some other stuff in these packs, so while you do have chances to pull some of these, you're also still getting, in your Rare pack, you're getting those G3 miners. And in your Epic pack, unfortunately, until you get the 36, you are still getting these hijacked waste of space ship blueprints as well. If you're in an alliance that's active and has some strong players, you can complete some decent sized Rare and Epics. Completing these and pulling these will help accelerate your growth process. You're going to have to keep doing your faction dailies to get stuff that way. The other thing that happens once you start getting to Ops 32 and you have 10 million reputation, actually it's about 8 million reputation you need, because once you get close enough, you don't need the full 10 million to do it. You can start getting them through the away team store. They cost $36.50 each, but every one you get will start chipping away at that. It's about 1,200 faction credits per blueprint, so anything you can do to make this process less faction credits will increase your turnaround time for that. So we said I got from Ops 1 to 34 in just shy of 6 months. It took me about another month or so of grinding and doing dailies in order to get the requisite faction credits and away team blueprints to unlock my ship. So just over 7 months into the game is when I was able to unlock and build my Augur. That's the ship that I chose. The thought process behind which ship do I get, they're all good. They're all much better than anything you already have. I think the Enterprise and the Augur are slightly better than the D4 just because of the firing patterns evolved, but the D4 does still put out a good amount of damage. We can take a quick peek at those real fast. So bam, we come over here to our friendly stfc.space. If you just look at, we'll take it to tier 3. right off the bat. What can you get to tier 3? DPR 54,000. That's pretty much similar to um, a late tier like Saladin or something like that. Like, so say you got a max Saladin, right? Your max Saladin's doing 57,000 damage per round. Our D4 by turn 3, by tier 3 rather. It's again not really investing too much in terms of parts to get it to tier 3. You're doing almost the same amount of damage. Taking it to tier 4, now you're pretty much basically even. Does start to require a bit more of resources. And then when you go from 4 to 5, now you're starting to see bigger improvements. But you've got a lot more shield health and hull health. So you're going to do some solid damage there. In terms of like the weapons, the firing pattern on the D4, it's 2 shots per round alternating every other round. This is probably the weakest. It's the consistent firing pattern because it's just 2 shots every round, but it's probably more of the weaker firing pattern in terms of the number of shots. So officers that boost shots for base cracking like Rom, or for like, Harry Mudd or anybody like that, or any of the strike team crews that boost the number of shots you get. If you're only getting 2 per round and you add 50% to that, well, now you're getting 3 per round, and it's not. You don't have the big swings. It's just very consistent in what it does. You're looking at the weapons, though, 25,000 to 30,000, per shot is what you're doing here. So you've got some strong kinetic weapons right there, as opposed to the USS Enterprise, which if we took this to about tier 4, again, still about 55,000 DPR, but the weapons are doing less damage, almost half, about half. The other was doing 25 to 30, this is doing 13 to 15, so you're doing half the damage per shot. But, again, your firing pattern, 2, 2, 2, 2, but they're separate weapons, so if you have something that's boosting like Rom, who's boosting it by 50%, this 1 becomes 1.5, which rounds up to 2. This becomes 1.5, rounds up to 2. So instead of getting 2 shots, you're getting 4 shots. Whereas with the D4, if you're firing 2 shots and you get 50% more, you're only getting 3. So just because of the firing pattern a little bit, stuff like that does work out a little better. You also do have this secondary weapon, which is firing. So you're still getting the same 2 shots per round, but then you're also every other round throwing in these extra 2 shots. 2, 4, 2, 4. And over time, you'll end up putting out more damage, especially if you have things that boost energy weapons or officers that boost energy weapons in PvP. Again, you can see here, 150 blueprints, 1,200 apiece, 180,000 Federation credits. The third ship is the Augur. It is a battleship. Again, just looking at tier 4, you're using lots of ore. DPR again, 57,000, but look at that hull health, right? 164,000 hull health. Perfect for grinding, perfect for long fights, perfect for armadas and things that just are going to go a long number of rounds. You look at your energy weapons, they're doing 7,000 to 8,000, so not a whole lot of damage, but you've got this big gun right here, 61,000 to 73,000. So when this fires, the Obliterator is aptly named. When it fires, it's doing what it's supposed to. And you look at the firing pattern, now you've got these phasers going off, 2, 2, so 4, 4, 4, 4. Every round, these phasers are firing very consistently. And if you have, again, things like Rom, for example, this goes to be 3, 3. So now you're getting 6 shots per round. And on the rounds, when you are firing your Obliterator, which is, the first shot is in round 2, and then it's every 3 rounds. So 2, 5, 8. You are getting this extra big shot. Rom takes this 1, makes it 1.5, rounds it up to 2, so you get that second shot off. Again, very good for base cracking because of it, and again, because of the hull health, it can take a number of shots from those defensive platforms, so much better for that. The ship abilities are also pretty strong. They do require the specific captain trait in order to trigger them. The Augur requires burning, the Enterprise requires morale, and I believe the D4 gets a boost from hull breach. Yeah, that increases weapon damage. This is a cumulative one. Goes up every round based on level. Weapon damage, though, you're getting it up here. You're adding 15%, 20% weapon damage per round. Over the long haul, the grand scheme of things, that's not a very big increase when you've got all the research and all the officers and all the other things that are adding to your base weapon damage. Ship skins and refits and weapon refits and things like that, adding 10% or 15% to your weapon damage, per round. So by round 5, round 6, now you're adding like 70%. So it does add up. But in my opinion, I think the D4 is the weakest of the three. If you have a lot of Klingon credits, though, go for it. Just get it done. Get one of these ships because it'll improve your gameplay so much. But I think most people tend to favor the Enterprise or the Augur because of the ship abilities. The Augur with its longevity because of its hull health. The Enterprise, it's the Enterprise, plus its ability is shield regeneration. Basically, Spock's ability is built right into the ship. If the ship has morale, you automatically just regen shield health. Saves you an officer slot. You can put Kirk and 2 other people on there instead. You don't have to use Spock. Frees up officer spot, gives you more combinations for things. The Augur requires burning. Georgiou is better than Nero for that. Georgiou is also a little harder and longer to unlock, so you'll use Nero for a while you can. And eventually when you get Georgiou, you'll switch to her because Georgiou's ability triggers at the start of the round. So you have multiple chances for it to go off before that Obliterator weapon fires at the start of round 2. It's the first weapon that fires in round 2. It's the first one that goes off. Nero's ability, after you fire, has a chance to trigger. The Obliterator, if the opponent is hit with the Obliterator weapon, as long as if they're burning, you increase weapon damage by this big percent. And it's a lot bigger than what the D4 starts at about. There's more conditions to it, though. So you have to get that burning applied in round, before the Obliterator fires in round 2. Georgiou will try to do it at the start of round 1 and at the start of round 2. Nero would do it after you fire your weapons and hit the opponent is when he triggers. So you're still getting, he's not going to go off in round 1 until after these shots go off. And if he doesn't hit his proc and trigger it, then it's not going to happen again until this, and then you've got a big chance of missing out on it. And then that burning might apply here in round 2 or 3, but then you got to wait till round 5 before the Obliterator fires again to then try and trigger the ship thing. So Georgiou is better once you get her for this. Lots of crews that you can run, though. Mix and match with people to open stuff up for you. But your best friend for doing away teams is going to be this mission. Lead Expedition. If you're not already doing it, start doing it as soon as you possibly can. This is an uncommon mission. It shows up pretty often. Minor and Intimidating are 2 of the key stats, which Nero has. Survivor, there's a number of officers that also have this one. Impulsive, Kirk, and, well, actually we can just go down here because I have a second one. So we can take a look at it. So there's a handful of people with Minor, but Nero's better because he also has both. Plus he's an epic officer, so his stats will be higher, which will help with the general proc rate on it. Survivor, you have Avix. You can also use Pan, or if you have Strange New Worlds La'an, you can get that unlocked and use either of them. But this is a defense-based key stat here, and Pan is more attack-based than defense. So he's easier to source, for sure, being in the Augment store, as opposed to Avix, who's more in the Rogue store and a little harder to source. But Avix first stat is also Engineer, which has a little bit more uses than Pan's first stat, which is just augment. There's more commonly engineer spots than augment spots. Impulsive is the last trait here. You're looking at Michael Burnham. You're looking at either Kirk are the officers you're most likely to get. There are a couple others that you might have unlocked already if you got some lucky pulls through your officer packs. But these are the guys you're looking at for unlocking that trait. On my higher level account, I use Burnham for this because these two people have value elsewhere, where she is a little more flexible. Her other ability is also genius and resourceful, and these come up fairly often for various other away team missions, as opposed to Kirk, who's got charismatic, which pops up once in a while. Captain, not as often as you would think. Charismatic is on a couple missions. Impulsive is on, for this mission here. But if you have Kirk, and Kirk's also easier to level, so again, for stat purposes, he is more defense based, so he will give you a better chance of hitting this. So he's probably your ideal officer for this, whereas Burnham is more attack based, and TOS Kirk is a little more, he's basically just straight across the board even. Again, same traits, Captain, Charismatic, Impulsive. So whichever one you get earlier, again, most likely going to be him because he's just easier to source. He's probably the guy that you want to get going on this to put him into that third slot. Excuse me. And then you can start hitting some criticals. You want to get this critical chance rate over 50%. If you can complete this mission 4 or 5 times a week, and you hit criticals at least twice, that's 10,000 at least, plus what you get from here. You're probably looking at 11 or 12,000. That's like 4 blueprints a week. Early on, that will really start to add up, especially if you start it, early, and you start at 32, start saving up for it, and start accumulating those blueprints, getting on one at a time, 3650. Just start cashing it in. You can get 4 to 5 blueprints a week just from that. By the time you get from 32 to 34 and get the shipyard and stuff and all the other buildings built and you're ready to go, you can probably already have knocked off 40 or 50 blueprints just through these away team missions, hopefully. That's a third of your ship. Now you're down to 120,000 faction credits instead of 180,000. Maybe you get a handful more to some boxes. Now you're up to 60, maybe you're up to 70. Maybe you get halfway there, and now you only need 90,000 faction credits. Faction credits you're going to source through doing your dailies, but don't forget about the scouts. Incredibly important extra way to get faction credits. Go chase down those scouts, get the messages, and do the turn-ins. If you get your reputation up, you'll need 180. You'll get 350 extra blueprints or extra credits per day. That adds up pretty quick. You can see the auger blueprints and everything here. They're all 1,200. Also, don't forget in your refinery, you might also have to put your Vidar on hold. If your Vidar isn't upgraded and maxed all the way and you're getting closer to that, you might want to put this ship on or slow it down a little bit. You do your nanoprobe refine. It gives you whatever, 4,500, 5,500, whatever tier you're at of these charged nanoprobes, and then you come over here and you buy your credits, and I cash in 3,300 of them, and I get an extra 185. Again, this scales by the tier of your Vidar. I think at the lower level, I think it was 2,700 or 2,800 for 150 was what I was getting at tier 6 of the Vidar. Again, just keep chipping away at it. Ways to add up and start getting this stuff early. If you're using half your nanoprobes toward getting these credits, and then you can use the other half toward actually leveling up the ship, you'll come out in a decent spot there as well. That's the big daddy. That's the heavy hitter right off the bat. That's the thing everybody wants to know about. Other ships we'll talk about real quick that also come into play around this ops level after the ship's at 34. we get to 35, you get the Franklin A, and then you start talking about 36, leading toward 36. Deficia, the Defiant just got added. That one, that one you're not going to be happy with. We'll get to that briefly. And then the Cerritos is also at 36. So the Deficia is available to build at 35, as is the Defiant. The Cerritos is 36. The Cerritos blueprints are sourced through a weekly event every Wednesday. You do the event, you kill hostiles with an exocomp active, and you get 10 blueprints a week. So when you get to 35 every Wednesday, you'll start getting that. Really not a need to push up to 36 until you have enough blueprints to build this thing. And then, there's nothing until the Jellyfish at 39. But we'll start with the Franklin A. The Franklin A is 100% free to source if you max out your original Franklin. That involves getting the Franklin to tier 9, which we've covered in other videos is ridiculously expensive. To go from tier 8 to tier 9 is like 6.5 million frequency modulators or something stupid like that. But once you get it to tier 9, you don't need to level it all the way up to 45. If you do, you do get a little bit more. We'll show you. You get a little bit more ship XP out of it when you scrap it, but it also does take a little bit longer. So you get it to tier 9, which means you can go from level 40, you can push it up to 45. As soon as you push it to 40, you see these advanced data cores right there. So if you scrap it early, you'll get 150 of the data cores. I'm pretty sure then you'll have an option in the store to buy the last quarter of the blueprints you need. Maybe I think it's like $20 if you're a player who prioritizes your time and involvement in the game. That might be a good $20 to spend, rather than taking the time to invest and do the dailies and hunt and grind those 6.5 million frequency modulators that you're going to need to get to that next level. But once you do, you just take it to 41, and then bam, there you go. There's your 200 data cores, and you're good to go. Scrapping time. This is also very important to plan it. Like, you don't want to build this and start scrapping it on a Saturday when you've got your Swarm Sunday event going. Scrapping time is about a day and a half. That's the base time. Once you apply the scrapyard level and stuff to it, it gets close to about 24 hours. And then once you get your alliance helps and stuff involved, it gets closer to about 22 hours to actually scrap the ship. So you'll have no Franklin for a 24-hour period there while it's scrapping. If you push it up higher, it does take a little bit longer to scrap. A couple extra hours, you get a little bit more ship XP out of it. You're just refunding a little bit more in terms of the Explorer parts and common gas, but it's 3-star materials, so it's just giving you more 3-star commons back. It's not changing, obviously, any of the other materials, but the XP levels that you would need to go from 40 to 45, you're talking about 300, 400, 500, 650, 850,000 ship XP you'd have to grind if you wanted to take it all the way there, just so you get 15,000 more ship XP delivered to you when you scrap the ship. Not really worth it, in my opinion. Save yourself the time and effort, get it to 41, and then you can scrap it. But you have to plan ahead for this because, like I said, it takes about a day to actually scrap the ship. And then, when you want to build the Franklin A is a 4-star ship. It's going to be the first 4-star ship many of us will ever get. The build time for it is ridiculous. It's not really 165 days. Again, your research and stuff and your ops level and your shipyard level all reduce this. The base build time is really closer to about 60 days, and then you get alliance helps and things, and that knocks it down to around 55 days, which means You'll either have no Franklin for about 2 months and still need to complete your dailies and your Swarm Sunday events, or you're going to need to have about 55 days worth of speed ups or about 15,000 Latinum to speed it up along the way through that method. Much like the Franklin A is ops locked by the warp frequency modulators. I'm sorry, these Franklin warp interlocks. The interlocks are what you get based on, it's a mission based on your ops level. You cannot take the ship from tier 1 to tier 2 until you are ops 37. So you will be stuck with a tier 1 Franklin. You can upgrade most of the components. You can upgrade the weapons on the thing to make it do more damage, get a little more armor and hull health. You can level it up to level 5 so you can get that officer slot and get your, damage bonus up to about 4,000. But you will not be able to actually level it up because of the warp engine and requiring this warp interlock right here. Now the Franklin, like I said, is a G4 ship. Also means it has a much higher repair bill than your original Franklin, but it is twofold. One, it can reach these new systems out here, which require warp 75, because the Franklin has that kind of, the A has that kind of warp range. So that can get you all the way out here, where you can then fight these level 37 swarm clusters, which are 7.8 million. I will say that my Pike Moreau Talon with a maxed Talon and my Franklin at tier 5, and I have all my research done, I can kill about 6 or 7 of these per hull. And the daily that you need to do requires you to kill 7. So I don't have any of the other components upgraded yet. But once you get it to level 5 and you get that extra officer slot, you should be able to kill 6 or 7 of these guys, hopefully, if you have your research done for your Franklin, your swarm research. What's the point of killing these guys? Well, these guys drop, these are the high level frequency modulators, but also for doing your dailies, you get a new resource. So instead of getting these biominerals from doing your dailies, you get these advanced biotics from doing your dailies. There's 2 of them you can do. You'll get 180 per day. The one that gives you 150 per day requires you to kill the 37s. The one that requires you to kill only level 35s, which you can do with the regular Franklin. If your Franklin is tier 9, you can kill 35s. Will give you 30 per day. Each of these turn-ins cost 100, so maybe like once or twice a week you'd be able to do one of these if you don't have the Franklin A yet. But what are these advanced biotics and how much of a difference do they really make? Let's look at the Parsteel one real quick. Your regular basic Franklin Parsteel turn-in is giving you 1 million here and 4 million in tokens for a total of 5 million Parsteel. Your Franklin A biotic, by the way, these kind of cap out when you get to like level 38. I think they stop changing, 39 they might. And I think it caps out around 6 million is where this stops changing and increasing. Your advanced biotic at ops 35 gives you 47 million Parsteel. So 10, almost 11 times as much. 4 million. Yeah, we're over 47 million here, so a lot more. I already forgot the number, so I'm sorry I can't do the math. Let's go back and look before I get a message in the comments about your math was wrong. So this is 5 million. Okay. So almost 10 times, 9.5 times as much in terms of resources is what you're getting here. 30 million in tokens, 17 million in active materials. You're going from 600,000 tritanium or so to like 6 million tritanium. You're going from, what's this, 75,000, 175,000, 195,000 dilithium to just over like a million or something like that. Million and a half, 1.6 million, I think. You get 600 and then $1 million chip or resource token. So significant upgrades. These will continue to scale up as your ops level progresses. So when you're in the 40s and even into the 50s, these are going to pay out ridiculously more amounts of resources. And you can get started on this process to help you with your leveling as early as Ops 35. Since we're talking about Ops 35, once you get to 35, your Swarm Sunday event, which again, the Franklin, all that fun stuff, it does change. So let's just reset the filters since it happens to be a Sunday that I'm filming this. Threat from Beyond Heroic 30 to 34. Your Heroic requires you to kill 32s. You get 10 points apiece. You can do that with like a tier 6, tier 7 Franklin, or even like a Saladin or Bortas, or a Centurion, especially if you have one of those ships. You kill 17 of them, you finish up your daily pretty easily. Or once you're 32 to 34, now it's 375, but you're getting points for killing 32s, which it's not incredibly difficult to accomplish that. But once you tier up to Ops 35, now you have to kill 35 and higher swarms for 10 points apiece. The 35s are a lot higher, so if you don't want to find yourself having to kill 188 level 32 swarms to complete this milestone and get your 8 Khan shards and your 8 Mara shards, you're either going to need a tier 9 Franklin, a very strong Centurion, possibly Saladin, to do your 35s. Bortas not going to work because you're going against the triangle there. That's going to be pretty rough for you. Or you need a Franklin A to kind of cut through these guys pretty easily. That is one of the big changes that happens when you go from 34 to 35. Did want to make sure to take a minute and kind of point that out. Just like you can scrap the Franklin to get the blueprints to build the Franklin A, you can also do the same thing with your Ferengi Devore, tier 9, level 41, will give you enough blueprints to scrap the ship and build your Devore Fisha. This ship is your super booster for mining concentrated latinum. Concentrated latinum giving you a lot more daily latinum than your regular latinum pole. I think this gives me 240 per chest. I can do up to 2 chests. I get 240. I get 480 latinum with my tier 7 Devore right now because I'm struggling to get the ship parts to level this up any higher. Concentrated latinum gives me 1,000 latinum a day at tier 1, not even at tier 1, not even built yet. So you're getting double the latinum right off the bat. Now obviously this can keep going. Keep in mind the Devore Fisha is not good at mining regular latinum, so if you want to keep doing both, you're going to have to either work on a second Devore, or you're going to have to mine it with a ship that's less than good at doing that, and perhaps use the other Ferengi officers. You can also do that in reverse. You see a lot of people using a Horizon with the Ferengi mining crew on it. Because the Ferengi officers that they introduced right after the next generation here, you have Arok, increases mining speed when mining concentrated latinum by 6,500%. You give him synergy, it's like 3,000 per side, so it gets up to about 12,500%. So you can put him on a Horizon instead of mining at like 50 an hour, which is what a basic Horizon would mine concentrated latinum at. You're mining at a much better rate with those officers. Fez here increases, base mining speed. He's gonna give you synergy, but he's gonna lower your protected cargo to do it. If you happen to have the other officers unlocked with Arik, you can use like Kath and Rom or Quark and Rom just to give him synergy and not deal with Fez and deal with the uh, protected cargo reduction. Quark will also give you, as an officer, an increase to base mining speed as well. So a little bit of synergy plus an extra little bit of a boost to mining speed, and you can cobble together, just using officers, a pretty decent crew to start mining concentrated latinum. That'll get you the higher latinum payouts. It'll also let you start accumulating Fuchsia parts, so you can start upgrading that ship. It is another ship that is sort of ops locked, so you don't necessarily need to be in a rush to level it up, but uh, the payouts and things like that will change. You'll get more parts, you'll get more latinum, and that'll help accelerate your growth in the game as well. Once you build the Devore Fuchsia, another thing to look at here is that your Latinum Rush event will also change. So you can see here it goes, has Devore Fuchsia. So your ops, where did it go? Why are they not all here? All right, so here is if you're at 35, your milestone is 1.75 million, which you can easily accomplish through G3 materials and possibly even just mining raw latinum in a couple hours of mining, fairly reasonable time, especially if you get a head start and are basically sitting on a node and ready to just move off and cash this in as soon as the event starts. 1.75, not too shabby. Once you move up, and if you're using the other crew and you can get concentrated latinum at 50 points or steal it from other players, you can finish this pretty quickly. Once you get your Devore Fuchsia, this changes. And now you see you need 14 million points to finish it, because they are banking heavily on you being able to mine this concentrated latinum at 50 points per unit, and you're going to finish it a lot faster. But the rewards also change significantly as well, including sourcing for Quark. You see back here, we're just looking at 600,000, a little bit of 3-star common and uncommon materials, 15 uncommon, 8 uncommon. Not a whole lot going on there. But now we're still looking at kind of at the same in materials, but you are getting the Quark shards. And then as you progress and move up, now you're into this 36 to 39 range where it's just automatically, it's just higher. If you're 36, they just assume you've got your Devore Fuchsia, and if you don't, you're going to have a real hard time getting 24 million unless you're camping on a G4 node overnight and you're ready to cash in 150, 200,000, whatever, in token space or something, or in 150,000 in an alliance territory. You're going to have a hard time mining 24 million points in a 24-hour period. So before moving to 36, again, highly recommend you have your Devore Fuchsia before moving up. All right, let's go back into the game and let's look at The other big thing that gets added at 35 is the Bajoran Faction Store. Now, there's been a lot of separate videos on this that you may have seen. There is also sourcing for the Defiant through here, which is the other ship that you can build at Ops 35. Starting at Ops 35. I have not built this ship yet on either of my accounts because it was just released this month in November. And you can get 1 blueprint per day is the sourcing for it. It requires you to get 55 of these diplomacy tokens, which are only acquired by doing solo armadas, and then you cash them in these uncommon exchange loot, or eventually these other bundles, the elite exchange, the rare and epic will open up later because, surprise, surprise, those are ops locked too. So your level 35 Bajoran faction chest will give you 45 diplomacy tokens per turn in. If you can do just a single chest pull, that's what you're getting. You're getting 45 a day. Well, you need 55 a day to do a Defiant to get one. This chest also has a 48-hour cooldown on it. So it's not just as simple as 1 per day. If you can only do single chest pulls, it's probably closer to, like, instead of 100 days, it's basically double that. It's over 200 days to get it. This chest also, from Ops 35 to 39, does not give you rare armada directives, so you cannot attempt to kill the rare solo armadas until you get to Ops level 40 and can actually get the directives for it. That's also when you'll see the additional turn-ins show up. Now, the rare and the epic loot boxes do pay out higher amounts of diplomacy tokens, which does make it a little easier, again, to source Defiant blueprints at the higher level. The other thing that when you defeat those armadas, you also sometimes, you also will get a certain number of these solo armada edicts. I think you get like 4 or 5 per level 35 armada that you can kill right off the bat. So after you kill a whole bunch of these, you can cash them in. You got to kill like, what, 20, 25 to get enough to turn this in. You'll get some extra credits. You'll get some diplomacy tokens, which will cut down a few days on that time. Maybe like once a week you might have enough, or once every other week you might have enough to do this, to shave a few days here and there off. Let's also have a little bit of officer sourcing for you, as well as extra ship parts. But if we go into the game and we go look at our new our new Dominion space, which is way out here. So if you follow this path from Bajor, it's essentially going through the wormhole all the way up here and out to this new purple area, which is where you can find these armadas. Fun facts about these armadas, if you haven't tried them: if you fail, they restore their hull health 100%. So you've got one shot at killing them, and if you get it 99% dead, it instantly restores all of its life back. So no second tries, no second attempts. Also, solo armadas, this is you fighting it by yourself. You'll bring your 3 best ships, and all 3 of those ships will fight this armada at the same time for you. The start timer on it is only 1.5 minutes, so make sure you've got your 3 ships in here waiting to take it down. And these things do respawn pretty quickly. I think it's about a 7-minute timer to respawn, so there should be plenty of them available. Again, not all armadas are created equally in terms of reward. As you can see here, you get 4 edicts, 44,000 credits. Well, you need about 130,000 credits to do it. Don't forget about officers like 5 of 11 or Geordi LaForge. Once you get to the point where you're comfortable enough to kill these consistently, you can consider a LaForge loot crew, because that's going to lower your power and your ability. 5 of 11 is still a strong officer in terms of his mitigation ability. LaForge is really just there to get extra loot, so he's more of a secondary crew kind of guy. Once you get more comfortable with that, you can kind of take that approach. Here we see 50,000, so you're getting a little bit better there. 42,000, 43,000. I'm looking to see if there's ones. Every once in a while you'll find one that pays out more than 4 of these edicts. But again, having 5 of 11, if you have him unlocked, will get you more of both of these, which will help accelerate your ability to open chests. Looks like we're not finding any right now. Okay. These armadas, 22 million strength. I've heard of people being able to beat them with about 6.5 million power in their armada. That's typically using a G3 epic. That's like tier 4 or so. So it's close to about 3 million power. And then having 2 level 28 ships that are, tier 8, tier 9. So they're about 1.5 million a piece. So you've got about, 3 million or so from your epic, and then you've got about 3 million or so from your Salin, your Bortas, your Centurion, or whatever. If you happen to have a 32 to mix in, that could also help. If you have a Burrell, or if you have a Newton or a Gladius or something, that may also help a little bit there. The conventional school of wisdom up until this point has just been skip those ships because you don't necessarily need them. You can still skip a 32, but you might want to also then invest in a second 28. So that way you can make sure you're able to kill these things. It sucks, I know. You don't really want to spend the resources there. You'd rather be spending those resources elsewhere. But if you diversify your ships, and you have different ship types, and you have different crews and officers, somewhere around the 6 million mark, you may need to pop an exocomp as well for damage bonuses or damage against armadas. And you might have a shot at taking one of these things down, and you can start this whole process, and you can start working towards the Defiant. The Defiant itself is an interceptor. It's got pretty strong power. It has a ship ability that boosts your damage and stuff versus armadas. Enhances your effectiveness versus solo armadas. It increases the Bajoran currencies and the amount of edicts and stuff that you get. So it helps with the whole loop and process once you get the ship. But you need to complete the loop and process for quite a long time, or purchase it through the store, which they were graciously selling the entire ship for just $99.99. That's not bad, all things considered. Considering buying a G3 Epic ship would cost you about $600. Getting a Defiant for only $100 is a steal, right? I know, I felt it when I said $600 for like an Enterprise. I felt some people just that gasp, that pit in your stomach, just kind of like, $600 for a ship? Yes. When they sell it in the store, you can buy 25 blueprints per pack, and each pack costs $100. You get some materials and resources and stuff with it, so that way it'll help you level it up. You're not just buying the ship parts, but you are going to have to buy 6 packs to get all the ship parts and the blueprints to then build the ship and start leveling it up. The other cool thing, though, is just for doing the daily grind with the Bajorans, you will get these hostile parts from killing Dominion hostiles. You'll exchange those. That will give you these Bajoran badges. You can then use those badges and exchange them for reputation, armada directives, or credits. If you turn them into credits, you can turn the credits into resources. Small amounts. Don't recommend spending them on this too often. Instead, you'd rather save up those credits and use them for the Bajoran favors, which are supercharged researches. The base levels for most of them start around 600 for a lot of these, and they do count as research. You can see here, if you hit your info button, you can see the power. Most of these, right off the bat, are huge power spikes. 84,000, save these and do them for research events, for domination events, research solo leaderboard events, because you're going to get 84,000 power for completing them. It's going to help you complete your event very quickly, help you place very high on the leaderboard. It might give you additional resources as a payout. All kinds of different unique abilities, things here that will help you. Increasing weapon damage, increasing hull health, increasing shield health of all your ships. Prophet's Tribute. This changes your 24-hour chest and gives it a bonus. So every day, in addition to whatever it's going to give you, it increases the payout from it. So instead of getting 100 Latinum and maybe a relocation token, maybe some premium recruit credits or something like that, you'll get a little bit more Latinum, a little bit more of the recruit tokens, a little bit more of whatever resource it might give you instead, and it's going to give you 100 Ultra Recruit tokens per day. Doesn't seem like a lot, but over the course of a month, it's 3,000 Ultra Recruit tokens, which is almost 4 extra officer pack pulls per month. It's going to help you get those officers unlocked and possibly tiered up a little bit faster. Once you start doing the armadas and you're capable of doing that, Prophet's Reward is going to be a necessity. This increases the payout of the armada credits that you get by 50%. So instead of getting 40,000, now you're going to get 60,000. Now you're going to be able to start doing those double chest pulls a lot more consistently, which is then going to speed up getting access to the Defiant, getting access to more of the officer shards, as we saw. The uncommon loot box, it doesn't have the officer shards in here, but it does have Ultra Recruit tokens, it does have trade XP, it does have Bajoran credits. Also just being able to kill you're going to level things up, you're going to get stronger officers, you're going to be able to kill the armadas a little easier, which will then get you to being able to get more of these edicts, and the edicts will help you source your Deep Space Nine officers as well. So once you kind of get the ball rolling, you can push that little snowball down the hill, it's going to pick up some steam. But you don't need this until you're able to do the armadas. Outlaw Advantage lowers the cost of your Stella components, makes your Stella process, upgrading and scrapping that, a little simpler. And then, again, these aren't all available right away. Some of them you do have to work on your reputation, get it up to certain levels first for that. Pa Ascension here increases the amount of reputation you get. So when you do your daily turn-in, instead of getting whatever this is, 250, maybe it's 350, 400. It'll help you accelerate your levels faster, so then you can get to more of these different resources. Prophet's Gift is a great one to get. Prophet's Gift adds, when your daily goals reset the following day, instead of just ending here with your 5th box, it will add a 6th box that takes 10 more points to get. So mine took 255 to get to my 5th box. Then it adds a 6th box over here that only costs 10 more points than I normally would need. In that 6th box, I get 500 Syndicate XP, which is greatly going to improve your ability to accelerate through the Syndicate to get additional buffs and bonuses. And it also gives you an extra 100 of these Bajoran badges, which you can then convert to more credits, or Armada directives, or reputation, to kind of accelerate your growth through this whole loop. It's probably the one I recommend getting first, because it's just going to make everything else flow a little easier. Get Prophet's Gift as quickly as you can. Get Prophet's Tribute probably next to get the Ultra Recruit tokens and get some of the improved payouts, those resources, and then start getting things here that are going to help your ships, your weapon damage, your hull health, your shield health, so then you can start killing stuff. Prophet's Prize will it'll reduce your grind time, because you're getting more loot rewards from the Dominion hostiles. So since you need, I think I need 2,300 Dominion loot components per day to do my maximum 3 chest turn in, so I get as many of these badges and stuff as I can. It's a lot of killing, so if you want to save yourself some time and cut that down, pick up Prophet's Prize. You get 50% more from the things that you're killing, and make your life a little easier. And then eventually, as your rep gets higher, you'll start getting some of this other stuff. More piercing stats, more PvP, more officer stats. Lowering the cost of your buildings also gets, pretty solid. But just keep in mind that, again, these count as research. So your domination style events, your research SLBs, that's where you want to save these turn-ins and stuff for, and to get those things going. That being said, we'll transition now into research, which is the other big thing that changes. There are no new buildings that you get at 34 or 35, just the standard buildings. You're just going to continue to level up. They did add a new building to the game just this month in the Armory, which we can talk about, but that's available to players at much lower levels, so everybody's going to get that as soon as you jump into the game. Much like the Treasury, it has a daily claim where you will get Armory parts for it. So you can slowly upgrade that based on the number of days. The building itself has a very strong components to it, boosting hull health, shield health, and your mitigation stats. So this will also help you with your growth, and it's more of a static bonus that's going to apply to all your ships. But no other hey, you're 35 now, you can unlock this building. It's like everything else is pretty much, it is what it is at this point. Unless they add something new, and then usually it's like starting from Ops 20 up is when the thing comes into play. So everyone's playing catch up with getting this. But at 35, your research, you get a few new things. In your territory tree, you get additional tiers for your efficiency research, so you can move this up one more. It's an extra 4% increase, going from 13% to 17%, lowering the cost of crystal gas and ore, which is always important to do any way you can get it, of your buildings, of your ship components, of your research. Get these done as quickly as you can. When you get to 35, out here, this whole new section, you can do this 3-star isogen extraction, and then you get into this whole section here that you can then also unlock, which increases the speed of research, repair, and construction. And then this also changes the parsteel, titanium, and dilithium costs of research, of ships, and of buildings. Again, more things that will lower costs to make things a little easier for you to grow, and none of them require crystal gas or ore to do it, which is awesome. They do require, obviously, the specialty particles, top row, middle row, going straight across. So you may have to wait and save up a little bit to get some of these things. And then once you do out here, you get weapon boost, shield boost for all ships, hull health boost for all ships eventually as well. But you have to unlock everything before it in that path in order to get out here to do it. In the outlaw tree, you're going to get a little bit of additional efficiencies here as well. And when you get to Ops 35, you can get out a little bit further here. You get more Stella research opening up in terms of these paths out here. Rogue Tactics will also be available, but you need your faction rep high enough to get the component for it. Don't necessarily rush to do that unless you've been committing to your Stella, because again, every time you move your faction rep up, the costs basically double of your daily grind with the Stella. And since you're already grinding with so many other things, don't necessarily need to be in a rush to get this improvement, although there are some good things out here like PvP weapon boosts and ore research. Also, by completing Rogue Tactics, you then get the ability to go back and do whatever path you didn't take on the previous tree. So if you did the top half like I did, you can go back and do the bottom half, so then you can get the research bonus, you can get crit defense boost for your defense platforms. Get more loot from the Stella to help with your grind and whole that process. Your station tree, those pesky Apex events that come around once a month during the in-between arcs, and you're like, what do I need these stupid little badges for? What did they get me? At Ops 35, these become unlocked to you. They require a lot of these Apex research medals, which, again, when these events only come around, these events usually involves data mining or killing Eclipse hostiles for 2 or 3 days. You will gain access to these. This one boosts your building speed. This one boosts your research speed. These are good to get. Obviously, anything that makes stuff faster is also great, especially because it's only requiring these medals. But again, these are harder to source because they're only through the Apex Predator events that come around during the week in between story arcs. The other big change is in the away team store. When you get to 35 out here, you then get access to this section of the map. Advantage Explorer. This is all punching with the triangle. These are ship-based bonuses, giving your ship the advantage against more damage against when it's fighting with the triangle in its favor. That'll then unlock these other ones, which will just boost the base stats of your ship, making your shield deflection, dodge, and armor higher for whatever particular ship. And down on the bottom row, these will improve your piercing stats, your penetration, your accuracy for each individual ship. So you'll boost your mitigation and lower their mitigation through these researches. They will take a little bit of time to get them all unlocked. Eventually, you got a little ways to go before you can get to the epic assignments out here. This does also get you to Infamy and Heroism, which does also boost all the stats of your officers. The other thing you're going to get access to in this particular little window here is through the scrapyard. You may have heard people talk about this a lot in other videos. Those G3 level 26 ships, if you happen to build one, this would be the time when you get the ability at level 34 to scrap it. If you take it all the way, you will get a considerable amount of 4-star materials for doing it. Now you're thinking to yourself, well, that's great. I invested materials into a 3-star ship. I got it to 34, my shipyard. I scrapped this ship. It gave me a bunch of 4-star ship parts that I can't use for anything yet. You're correct. You cannot use the 4-star ship parts for anything yet. When you get your jellyfish at 39, this will come in handy. When you move into your 40s and work on whatever ship you're going to build then, this will come in handy. However, these materials will come in handy sooner than that, because the common ore, the uncommon ore, rare ore, gas that you get from scrapping a Mayflower, from scrapping a D3, from scrapping a Legionary, will enable you to get some of these prime researches done. Because some of these primes here, prime defenses, requires 4-star ore, rare ore. Prime piercing is 4-star rare crystal. But as we saw from our scrapping, where'd it go? Rare ore, 262. Gas, 486. So rare ore, I need 262. This is giving me, I only need 180 to do this research. And again, based on your efficiencies, this will go down. Same thing here with piercing. Can't get any more of these. Station tree, your primes here that you would get access to would be prime repair speed, which is gas, and repair cost, which is a little bit of crystal here too. If your efficiency is high enough, sometimes you can squeeze out both, but you might not be able to do that until 36, until you get one more tier of efficiency reductions. Galaxy Tree, the big one right here is Prime Officers and boosting all their stats. This one takes rare gas, so you're going to need to, ideally it's a Mayflower, but a D3 should also give you enough for this. The D3 should do it. The Legionary is going to give you back ore and crystal. D3 is going to give you back crystal and gas. So whatever ship you happen to build, if you built one at 26, this is its prime purpose. You used it for a little bit just for, getting some of the cloaking dailies and stuff done, to get some of that research done, to get the ship boosts. Now you're looking at taking it to the next level in this range here, pushing it. Again, it's going to slow down, taking the resources away from your G3 epic ship a little bit. But these prime researches are certainly worth it, especially ones like Prime Officers. The prime piercing ones are pretty strong here. Also, the side effect of this is going to be these prime refining ones. These add an extra refine. So instead of your boxes during your daily refine, they still cost the same. But instead of them, see if I think I did mine already for today. Yeah, I did. But same difference. So instead of it being a 1 chest, 2 chest, 3 chest pull, if you have that prime, it becomes a 2 chest, 3 chest, 4 chest pull. They are helpful. They do increase the payouts a little bit. You will probably get more common materials than, extra uncommon or extra rare materials. It's more likely you're just going to get an extra common pull more often than not, just because of the way the loot tables work in these boxes. But over time, it is going to add up and be cumulative. They sell those primes for $100 a piece. I wouldn't pay $100 for them, knowing how they work now. I did on my other account. I regret it. It was 2 years ago when, I was leveling up for the first time. It's not something I would repeat. But if I scrapped a Mayflower and I had some extra G4 uncommon gas, and I was like, well, what am I going to do with this? I'm not going to wait 4 levels until I get a jellyfish to build, to invest in it. That's going to be months down the road. I'll take the extra prime for free to start getting these payouts a little higher, so that way I can level up my enterprise. I can take the ore and level up my auger a little bit faster and do those kinds of things. I can work on, if you want, a second Mayflower to then scrap to get more resources later for the jellyfish down the road. Do that more at like 36, 38. When your efficiencies are higher, it'll cost you less. So that's kind of where we're at with everything. That's all the big changes. That's kind of your wheelhouse. So you're going to take your time. You're going to do what you have to do. Do your away team missions. Get your blueprints. Get your G3 built. You're probably going to need, like I said, you get that up to about tier 4. You're looking at about 2.5, 3 million in strength from that, depending on the officers. Maybe you get an extra component or 2 here and there, and then you're going to need that. Those maxed or tier 8, tier 9 level 28s, Bortas, Centurion, Saladin, to try and do those solo armadas. To get the solo armadas going, you can get that process going, started for the Defiant. Maybe we get lucky and there's some Defiant blueprints in an event store or something like that to help speed this path along. But realistically, they've changed the circumstances a little bit. You can't just get a Saladin at 28 like I suggested a couple months ago when I was doing those videos at the time. Get your Saladin at 28, get it up, max it out, skip the 32s, don't build any other 28s, get to your 34, get one of those built as quickly as you can, and you're great, and you can do all your grinding and all your hostile stuff and participate in your armadas. And you still can do all that just fine. But if you want the Defiant, you have to do the solo armadas to do it. In order to do the solo armadas, you need 3 strong ships. So now's where you have to go back and fill in that gap. Where's that other ship coming from? Is it going to be another 28? Did you get a 32 because you progressed slower through the game? If you progressed slower, you know, you got the 28, you built one of those ships, you got the 32, and you're like, you know what, it's going to be a while before I get the 34, so I'm going to build a Burrell. I'm going to build a Gladius. And that may help you now. That may be a benefit to you because now you might be closer to getting to that point where you will have that 6.5 million-ish power. I'm going to try one of these later this week. I'm waiting on some more research and stuff to go in on this account. But as you can see, just take a real quick where we're at. My augers right about 2 million. This is at tier 3. I have a couple of components done, but none of the weapons and stuff done to move it to tier 4. My Bortas is tier 8. And I went back and built the Saladin, which is now at tier 5. So, I mean, realistically, I'm looking at 2.5, 4.5 million power. I don't think that's going to be enough to get it done. But I only need one more component on the Bortas. So when I get enough ore for this, we can give her a shot. Well, I'll feel more comfortable about it. I'm probably just going to waste the directives and give it a shot anyway on Tuesday, just to see where we come in. But I am waiting on to get a couple officers unlocked later this week as well. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you learned something from watching this Ops 34 to 35 tutorial, have a better understanding of everything that's happening and changing in the game at these levels, and this helps you prepare to make this transition or how to play through these levels effectively. Leave any comments or questions you have down below. Of course, don't forget to check out my live streams on YouTube, subscribe to the Twitch channel, live streams on Twitch, subscribe to that channel. Watch the videos on YouTube, so you're hopefully subscribed to this channel as well. And thank you all very much as we try and get closer to 1,000 followers, 1,000 subscribers here on YouTube. Couldn't have done it without people like you. Appreciate all the support. Hope you had a great holiday. See you around the galaxy.